Hello everyone. It's been long since I have uploaded any video. Uh, Actually, I apologize for that. So, without any further ado, let's just begin with today's topic. Okay, so today's topic is about John Dryden, right? John Dryden, the famous writer of Restoration era, the Dryden who functioned as a father of criticism. But what we do not know about that Dryden is that he was someone who was very much well versed in drama, poetry, translation, apart from criticism. So today we are going to throw light upon his works, his biography, his important themes, what he believed in, and how he was a writer who used to change his ways and political affiliations and thoughts and perspectives when times changed. Okay, so he was a very smart writer. He had smart moves, and we are going to analyze how uh, this is a very important feature of Dryden's works. Okay, so the main part is that as and when times changed, as and when political parties changed, as and when the monarchy changed, the state of politics changed in England, it was Dryden who first thought it better to align himself and align his thoughts and political viewpoints with respect to the um, the changing politics, so that he can remain in fashion for a longer time and he can enjoy the patronage and the favors and finances provided by him through these royal people. Okay, so this is a very important point about John Dryden. So, beginning with his introduction, he belonged to the era of Restoration, right? Charles I had succeeded his father James I in 1625 as King of England and Scotland. Okay, so we see that this was an era where multiple political what do you call it, political conflicts were there. The English Civil War happened. People were divided in two parts, and the society was divided in two parts. And the monarchy had offended the parliament. It had offended the Protestants, and this was a situation of anarchy and chaos, right? So you can say that it was the era of restoration in which Dryden functioned, and you have to remember that this era of restoration also came to be known as the age of Dryden because of the influence of Dryden. This is very important for net point of view, right? So this is what I have written here, that Charles I succeeded his father James in 1625 as King of England and Scotland. His actions frustrated Parliament and resulted in the English Civil War. He offended Protestants, and this kind of social turmoil was there in which Dryden functioned, and in which he started to write. So what happened, that that before the Restoration era it was of course the Puritan age, and you have to remember here that Dryden used to change with the changing times. So what happens is that the first work that Dryden will ever come to write would be an elegy called the Heroic Stanzas, published in 1659 to Oliver Cromwell. It was Oliver Cromwell, the Puritan leader, upon whose death Dryden published Heroic Stanzas. Very important, his first important work, important for chronology also and UGC net. Okay, so now that we know that Dryden had this kind of a first work, we will see how this tendency of him writing his works as according to the changing times will be prevalent in some of his later works as well. Okay, so some of the earliest features of Dryden's life were: he was the eldest of 14 children. Okay, he was a paternal grandson to a Puritan landowning gentry. So his family had Puritan, history, and he actually went on to attend a humanist public school. Humanism, we all know, humanism is something when we focus on human potential, the rationality of human beings, the social capacity of human beings, and our capacity to reason, our capacity to argument. So it was here that he actually developed an art of rhetoric, the presentation of arguments, and it will impact, and this skill will impact Dryden's style of thinking and writing for a very long time. So this was a very crucial point in his personal life. Okay, so the Puritan influence was there from a very from an an early age, but as he progresses, his ideas sort of also intensify as well and change as well. Okay, so he went to Trinity College in 1650. His religious and Puritan spirit revived here as well. But now that he went over, prospered in his life, he started to see writing as a profession. So because he was not very much he did not have much of an adequate financial balance. He was short of money at the age of 29. So you can imagine that at the age of 29, a writer who is short of money, he will turn to some other thing for some. Yes, so a writer who is short of money at the ripe age, at a very young age of 29, he will not just look at writing as a form of recreation. He will try to use it to his advantage. So that is what Dryden did as well. He now turned to theater for some finances so that he is able to earn some money. Soon after, he got married to the daughter of the Earl of Berkshire. So it was a very prosperous marriage for Dryden because it led him to enjoy many grants and fortunes through this marriage. Soon after, he also got the favors of the Royal Society. He was also asked to be a member of the Royal Society. He became a royal historiographer, and then he also became the poet laureate in 1668. He was England's first poet laureate, very important from that point of view. Okay, so now we know that he enjoyed slowly and slowly the royal favor, and he enjoyed royal patronage. So naturally, it will be compulsory of him to write in favor of the people who are in political power at the time when he is writing. So that influences writings and works and perspectives very much. We have to remember that when we read the works of Dryden, because otherwise you will feel that his works have do not have a very similar kind of political perspective. They keep on changing. Okay, so here we realize that Dryden sort of changed. His life changed when after his marriage, his financial and fame matters, they increased and prospered. It was in the years 1606 to 1607 that Dryden truly prospered. Okay. Uh, Changing loyalties and smart moves, we have already discussed that. So this is basically an overview of the important things that went in that have occurred in Dryden's life and had an impact on his works. Whenever we discuss any kind of a writer, we have to first discuss his biography, his lifestyle, his important events, so that we can trace the importance of the impact of such events on the works of these writers. Okay, so a fun fact here that Jonathan Swift, and Dryden used to be distant cousins. Like they were distantly related, and Swift and Dryden did not have much of a commonality amongst them between them. They did not use. I think they did not like each other. So this is a very fun fact that we can remember. They wrote off each other in their works, and not very in a not in a not in a very cordial manner, of course. Um, Yes, so these are some of the important details. Let me see. Yes, so actually, you can be asked that Walter Scott, he was a very famous Scottish writer. It was him who actually gave the first historical novel the shape, a proper shape. It was him who actually pioneered this genre, and many other writers, several writers over Europe and Americas and Britain, they started to write in this particular genre of imbibing history and fact, history and fiction actually together. Waverley, his first novel, which was published here, it is written in 1814. It was his first novel in the very long Waverley series that actually started this trend and this genre of historical novel. Very, very, very important from that point of view. Okay, he revived Scottish culture. So you have to remember Waverley, and the Waverley series. It is many novels are there starting from Waverley 1814, and they continue for a very long time in a series. All right, now we move on to Dryden's works. Okay, so Dryden's first important poem, for example, we have already discussed. It was heroic stanzas. It was an eulogy, basically written to. It is an elegy written in 1659 to Oliver Cromwell. Take on Oliver Cromwell's death. In 1660, Dryden celebrated the restoration of the monarchy. Now you see that how his perspective is changing, how his political allegiance is changing as per the changing times. He's writing here a work about Oliver Cromwell, and then he's also celebrating the restoration of the monarchy with Astrea Redux. It is a panegyric. Panegyric is basically something, a work which is written in praise of someone or something. In 1660, he is writing this. Okay, so here he is actually criticizing the Puritan age. This is very important. You can see how his, he changes. So up until now, you have realized how he is very smart. He used to change his perspectives and viewpoints so that he can be more in alignment with, the popular opinion, and he can be in favor for a longer run, and prosper in that regard. We cannot say that he's wrong in that, maybe because that was the need of the hour. So he criticizes in Astrea Redux, which was written in 1660, the Puritan age, and after that he also writes to my Lord Chancellor in 1662. This is also in praise of the Lord Chancellor at the point of the restoration. Then there is an important turn in Dryden's life. He started writing plays once theaters reopened. So you remember how during the Puritan age the theaters got closed. They once again reopened, and then Dryden wrote his first play, that was The Wild Gallant. Very important, can be asked what was the first play of Dryden. 1663 it was written. It was not much successful, but it was promising. It established himself. It established Dryden firmly in the drama genre. 1660s to 1670s, theatrical writing was the main occupation of Dryden. He wrote many important works like Marriage a la Mode and All for Love, 1678. It is very important work, All for Love, 1678. And so this is like a restoration comedy, Marriage a la Mode. And This is like a heroic tragedy, all for love, very important. Written right after Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was written in 1675 for a chronology purpose. You have Aurangzeb, then you have Marriage a la Mode, and then you have you have Marriage a la Mode first, then Aurangzeb, and then All for Love in this particular section. So you see how Dryden is experimenting with a lot of things, and before he goes on to criticism and critical genre. Ringzebe was written in blank verse. You have to see and remember who wrote the blank verse. This can be a little homework that you can do. The watchers can do from your end. There are many other sections that have highlighted in pink, and you can just go and see and do some homework, because it will enrich your knowledge and it will make you more and more curious. Um, Very important. This is asked in UGC net quite often. So now that we have established his turn to drama, we now see how he turns to poetry. So Dryden was left unsatisfied with drama. In 1667, it was that he published Annus Mirabilis. Annus Mirabilis is basically translated into English as the marvelous year. He was in favor of he needed to be in favor of the people in power, so he could not just say. Annus Mirabilis was actually it is about 1665 to 1666, this particular period in England's history, and it was actually not a very good year. The Great Fire of London had happened, and it was just politically, it was not such a good year. So Dryden actually wrote this work in order to gain the public opinion in favor of the people in power, so that he is able to use his position as a writer and sway the public opinion. So he published this work, Annus Mirabilis, in contrast with the actual situation, highlighting the good things as well in that particular year, perhaps to say that that year could have gone much better, much worse actually. So you can see how he uses his position as a writer to impact things politically. So he had a very important role. Then the Great Plague of London occurred, right? Theatres got closed once again around 1665, and Wiltshire, he retreated here. It was actually a place, I think, it was given to him by Lady Elizabeth's father. It was his wife. I'm not too sure, but I think it is that. We can check. Here he wrote of dramatic poesy. So it is here that Dryden truly realizes his. So it was here that Dryden actually wrote of dramatic poesy, 1668. It was a very lengthy critical work, very important. It was here that Dryden actually used fictional names for, classical names for some of his contemporaries, four contemporaries of himself, and he gave himself the name of Meander. And here these characters are on a debate and discuss the merits and demerits of three forms of drama: classical, French, and English. And it is a very amazing critical work, and you really get to see the argumentative side of Dryden. All right. Um, okay. So then we go on to that. Yeah, this we have seen. Yeah, yes, this is an important point. So Aurangzebe was basically a heroic play, and it has a prologue which denounces the use of rhyme in serious drama. And Dryden also believed in the fact that there is a relationship between the poet to tradition and the creative process. So even though we say that Dryden's ideas changed with times, they were nonetheless always very strong, had critical stature, and sufficed with evidence. It was not that he did not have any independent ideas of his own. He definitely had them, and he was a very sharp and excelled writer nonetheless. Um, Soon Dryden published an essay upon satire. Very funny here that once he was actually praising Charles II, here he is attacking King Charles II, because it was the public opinion, very famous at that time, that criticized Charles for being leading a very rakish, a very infamous lifestyle with mistresses and everything. So it was basically his satire upon him, and he also criticized more than anyone. He criticized the Earl of Rochester. He was a womanizer. So basically, here you see how Dryden very much had to write also in concern of the public opinion, because he wanted to remain in fashion for a longer time. He was a very smart man. Uh, it cannot be too much of an important information, but Rochester actually had written a popular work named A Satire Against Reason and Mankind. Maybe it could be asked in the examination, so you should know. Um, Very important, Macflecknoe. Here again, you can see that here he's criticizing the Earl of Rochester. Here in this work, Macflecknoe, which was written in 1678, he is criticizing, and it got published in 1682. He is criticizing Thomas Shadwell. Shadwell, ironically, will go on to become the poet laureate when Dryden is dismissed after losing political, favor, and Shadwell becomes the next poet laureate after Dryden. Very important. So Metfleck, very important mock heroic. It is a mock heroic, um, very important book, right? Then we see here that Thomas Shadwell. Um, yes, now in 1682, Absalom and Ashitophel, it is an allegory. It got published in 1681. Absalom and Ashitophel is a very important work in which Dryden defends King Charles II, criticizes the Earl of Shaftesbury and his supporters who wished to exclude his younger brother James II from the line of succession. So James II was actually a Catholic, and it was for this very reason that he was not liked by the general public. Okay, so Absalom and Achitophel, very important. It was an allegory. King David is represented. He uses King David to represent King Charles, and and several other characters to represent the other real life people. Um, then after that, in this period, his other works are religious, because of course that is a popular flow of the time. People are talking about religious things, so he's talking about religion as well. Religio Laicis is 1682. It was published, and here he is writing from from the position of a member of Church of England. So of course he cannot write anything against it. So in order to gain that a particular community's opinion, he's writing religiosity. Its subtitle is Or a Layman's Faith. Very important. It can be asked. Sometimes subtitles are asked in Match the Following. Dryden here addresses the views of a layperson or a commoner. He is basically writing from the viewpoint of a commoner, and he says that the Anglican Church is the best amongst Roman Catholicism, Protestantism, and the Anglican Church. Because it is in the middle, and it situates the middle ground. So it was Dryden who actually um, praised the Anglican Church because he was, of course, a member of it at that particular time. All right. So in this work, Religio Laici, it is actually written in heroic couplet. Very important. Who pioneered the heroic couplet? Who used it for the very first time? I can tell you the answer for this one, but you can Google it. You will get it very easily. It is a very famous, very, very, very famous someone who has actually, I'll give you a hint, someone who has standardized English. Okay, so you should get it by now. Um, Okay, so this was another period in Dryden's life after criticism and everything that he started to turn to translation, and it is here that he found the most joy, in this work of translation. He had a very important role in translating this work, Plutarch's Lies, translated from Greek by several hands. He did not translate it himself, but Dryden, he wrote the preface and the life of Plutarch in it, and he had a very important role in it. Then he began to work on the works of Virgil. It can be asked. He also translated the Aeneid into couplets. He translated series of episodes from Homer, Ovid, Boccaccio. Not very important, but you can be asked of works like Faber's Ancient and Modern. Who wrote it? 1700. Okay, year. And you can be asked that who's the translator of this work. Then, very, very, very important. Again, you see the smart move by Dryden. It is here that Dryden turns to Roman Catholicism. Okay, but here you actually see that he somewhere stays true to to his to his political opinion. He turns to Roman Catholicism in 1685, and he talks about his turnover in the Hind and the Panther in 1687. Okay, so this is a very important work. It can be asked, right? Then uh, another important factor, of course, is Dryden towards decline. It was after the Glorious Revolution. Glorious Revolution occurred when King James II of England, who was also King James VII of Scotland, he was dethroned. It was called the Glorious Revolution because it did not happen with much of bloodshed. It actually happened very peacefully. That is why perhaps it is called the Glorious Revolution. You can check on that info. You can confirm it. So after King James, William III, who was William of Orange, and he was the husband of Mary II. Mary II was actually the daughter of James II. Okay, so James II got dethroned, and his basically son-in-law got ascended to the throne along with his daughter, along with James II's daughter. So the Glorious Revolution actually overthrew James II. And it was a very important point. 1688 to 1689, the Glorious Revolution occurred, and Dryden actually refused. So, that for the very first time we see in Dryden's life that he actually resorted not to sway with the changing times, and he refused to take the oaths of allegiance to the new monarchs, and it left him out of favor at court, which is what he feared throughout his life. And Thomas Shadwell succeeded him. We already discussed that as poet laureate, and he was forced to give up his public offices and live by the proceeds of his pen. All right. So, yes, so this is something we have discussed about Dryden's decline. Sir Walter Scott, we have already discussed. Yes, you can read about this. All this material, this PDF I've made on my own, but you can actually find this information on net. I've collected from various sources. The bio actually is from various research papers and everything from Gestor and other such, papers. So databases. So yeah, I think that would be it. That this is it for today's video, and I will see you all soon. Thank you.